A sleek menu screen glows in the dark as a smooth voice hypes up the new gate, the world's hottest VR game where you can live out absolutely any adventure you want. You pick from 7 unique races, hunt monsters with your friends, get rich through trading, or even become a smith who forges legendary weapons. For a while, it really is just the biggest online game on the planet, a global bestseller that everyone is playing. Then one day, everything changes, and without warning, the players suddenly find they can no longer log out of the game. And the cruelest rule of all snaps into place, because now dying inside the game means dying for real in the outside world. Our hero Shin has been fighting forever to end this nightmare, and one loyal companion bows and begs him for a real duel if they ever meet again. He gently tells her to take care of herself, then turns away to go finish the very last battle. Deep in the final dungeon, he faces the last boss, Gatekeeper Origin, a towering horned skeleton that keeps regenerating every single part he breaks. Refusing to let it heal back up, Shin slams it with steel repulse to pin the thing down for good. Then he winds up his blade and unleashes Dance of Moonlit Blade, and the strike tears the giant boss clean apart. Just like that, Gatekeeper Origin finally falls, and a whole shower of rare new titles comes flooding in. With the dungeon cleared, every trapped player is at last allowed to log out and escape the death game alive. One by one, the others fade away safely, and Shin carefully double-checks that everyone really is getting out. As the very last person still inside, he says a quiet goodbye to the new gate and finally hits log out. But instead of waking up, a bizarre event that shouldn't exist triggers, and the whole world flashes white. He comes to sitting in a wide, sunny grassy meadow that feels far too real to be any game he remembers playing. It's way too vivid and detailed for virtual reality, and a cold dread creeps in that something is seriously wrong. He opens his menu and finds his stats have exploded, every number now sitting in the thousands from the titles he just earned. Then he goes looking for the exit and freezes on the spot, because the logout button has simply vanished. There's no network connection anywhere either, and it slowly sinks in that this fantasy world is now completely, physically real. Fresh out of one death game, he groans that now he's somehow been dumped into surviving an actual isekai. Deciding that just sitting there solves nothing, he uses a registered home point to instantly warp back to his old base. The warp drops him right where his base should be, and he takes a long moment to absorb how much the land has changed. He arrives to find towering stone walls and a castle that were never here before, a whole town grown up over open land. At his home, the Moon Sanctum, a gang of thugs is shoving a girl around and demanding she tell them where the owner is. One brutish thug rears back to strike her the instant she refuses to give up her master's location. Shin steps in before the blow can land, calmly testing how his new real body handles magic and a few solid hits. The rescued girl introduces herself as Tierra, the shop's helper, and thanks the mysterious stranger who just saved her life. The moment she mentions the acting owner, Schnee Razor, Shin instantly recognizes the name of one of his own support characters from the game. That explains how the Moon Sanctum is still standing after all this time. So he plays it cool and calls Schnee an old acquaintance. Tierra offers to pass along a single message to her master, but only for the hefty price of 1,000 July. Without missing a beat, Shin reaches into thin air and casually pulls his payment straight out of an inventory. She panics that only kings and elders can use inventories, and that his little coin is a gold gale worth 10 billion July. To her, a gale is the tiniest scrap of currency in the world, so she finally demands to know just who he really is. Pressed for the truth, Shin admits he's a high human, and Tierra turns pale, because that superior race supposedly went extinct ages ago. She explains the sun set on prosperity from 500 years back, when the high humans and countless others simply vanished overnight. Shin realizes those missing people were really the players logging out, meaning he has woken up a full 5 centuries after the game. To thank her for the history lesson, he casually hands the priceless gold gale straight to Tierra like it's pocket change. She cradles the sparkling coin she's always dreamed of owning, completely stunned that anyone would ever give it away so freely. Then Shin notices something strange, because to his eyes Tierra looks like a black-haired elf, despite the illusion meant to hide it. In this world, black hair is seen as a cursed omen, a dark sign that brings disaster and terrible misfortune. Her home village was swarmed by monsters, and she was cast out, until Schnee found the girl and took her in. She's lived safely tucked inside the shop's protective barrier for 100 years, her true face hidden from the entire world. Shin asks if her hair was always black, and learns it changed color in an instant, right after she was suddenly cursed. Something clicks in his head, so he pulls open his skill menu and hits her with Analyze to read exactly what's wrong. The curse even comes with a name, Cursed Gift, a random affliction that blackened her hair and lures hungry monsters straight to her. Then, like it's nothing, he mentions he actually knows how to lift it, and casts Purify right there on the spot. It only half works, but a bright streak of Tiara's hair shifts back to its original silver, and she can't believe her eyes. Shin apologizes that it wasn't a complete cure, but to her even this small piece is an absolute miracle. She bursts into happy tears, finally seeing her own true silver hair for the first time in 100 long years. Overwhelmed, Tiara thanks him over and over, still barely able to believe that her lifelong curse is really breaking. He walks her out past the barrier to test it, promising to handle any monster that appears, and nothing comes for her at all. For the first time in a century, Tiara stands beneath the wide open sky, quietly marveling at just how vast it really is. She asks what he plans to do next, and Shin decides to visit the nearby town so he can learn more about this world. Grateful beyond words, she gives him a letter of introduction so he can pass freely into the Bayrelicht kingdom. The letter is no small thing, and he strolls right past the long checkpoint line that everyone else is stuck waiting in. Inside the city, he heads straight for the Adventurers Guild, figuring it's the best place to start digging up information. With the receptionist's help, he signs himself up at the counter as a brand new, freshly registered adventurer. She tells him his official guild card won't actually be ready to collect until sometime the next day. While he waits, Shin studies the other adventurers and notices their weapons and armor look far weaker than they did back in his gaming days. At the tavern, a waitress who looks exactly like the receptionist serves him, revealing that they are in fact twin sisters, Celica and Silica. Silica admits there is one thing she'd quietly like to confirm, and asks to verify his letter of introduction in a private room. Shin barely gets the chance to finish his meal before the guild master himself is suddenly looming over the table. The big scarred man introduces himself as Bayrelicht and gets straight to business, asking to inspect that letter. He holds it up beside his own. The two letters resonate and glow together, confirming that Shin's is completely genuine. Bayrelicht explains it grants free passage through nations and even an audience with kings, which makes it a huge magnet for thieves. So he warns Shin flatly that if he doesn't have the confidence to protect it, he should destroy the thing here and now. Shin swears he'll live up to Tiara's trust, and the grinning master welcomes him warmly as a man vouched for by the Moon Sanctum. Completely wiped out from a wild first day, Shin collapses at an inn, still half expecting to wake up back in the real world. Instead, morning simply comes, and he heads back to collect his shiny new rank G Guild card. He deliberately swaps into plain, simple gear, since a lowest rank rookie in strong armor would only draw suspicious stares. As he heads off, the receptionist quietly wonders how a man Bayrelicht personally vouched for can somehow seem so harmless and unassuming. For his very first job, he grabs some easy hillweed gathering, but 3 hours later he's still crouched in the woods, empty-handed. Then he spots something moving strangely across his map, and follows it to find a smashed, wrecked carriage nearby. He tracks the source of the chaos and comes face to face with a monster far nastier than any rookie herb quest. It's a skull-faced jack sitting at level 359, a rare unique undead swinging a powerful holy greatsword. The thing is blindingly fast, and after just a few clashes his cheap starter blade is one swing away from shattering. Realizing that normal, restrained power isn't going to cut it, Shin finally decides to stop holding back completely. Limit off. He drops every last restraint and unloads a single full power strike the monster has absolutely no answer for. The skull-faced jack is erased in a heartbeat, leaving Shin alone in the quiet forest, grasping at last just how strong he is here. He even glances at the fallen greatsword, a little annoyed that his flashy finishing move sent the thing flying away. Because that final blow rocketed the massive blade clear across the sky and slammed it straight into the distant castle. Inside, a startled blonde princess stares up at the sword now buried in her chamber wall, demanding to know the meaning of all this. Picking up right where we left off, Princess Rion studies the enormous white sword that crashed into her chamber and orders it appraised at once. She demands to know exactly who launched it into the castle, certain whoever managed such a thing must be incredibly powerful. Over at the Adventurers Guild, a crowd of wounded people is being treated after a brutal attack out in the northern woods. Of the 12 who went in, only 4 made it back, ripped apart by a skull face that appeared out of nowhere. A shattered carriage and bloodied survivors make it painfully clear something terrible tore through the area. Shin walks in and learns that a sword was seen flying out of those same woods and smashing straight into the castle. He instantly realizes that runaway blade was his own handiwork, though he keeps a very careful poker face about it. An investigator says the higher-ups have put him on the case, and Shin innocently claims he was just out harvesting hilt grass. Privately, he winces, knowing this whole commotion is all because of the monster he quietly took down the day before. Inside, the receptionist Celica welcomes him back, and he stops by to make his report. He casually mentions that he's the one who defeated the Skullface Jack, and hands over the gem he pulled from it. He lays the recovered gem right on the counter as casual proof of his frankly unbelievable claim. Celica completely loses her usual calm, insisting that a monster like that could never possibly be slain so easily. Her colleague, a green-haired elf named Els, steps in and offers to examine the gem, since it still holds the monster's mana. Els explains that undead are born when mana fuses with the grudges of the fallen, and these deadly woods are full of both. If Shin really killed a level 359 creature all alone, that puts him on par with a whole A-rank party. He quickly asks the two of them to keep it quiet, because the last thing he wants is to draw attention. Later at the tavern, Celica's identical twin sister, seats him, and he ends up sharing a table with a stranger. The stranger carries a sinister magic spear called Venom, said to rival even the mightiest legendary weapons. The dark weapon hums with a hungry, ominous aura that makes ordinary people instinctively keep their distance. He introduces himself as Wilhelm Avis, a spearman with an unsettling pale face and piercing red eyes. Shin doesn't so much as flinch at the fearsome name, which visibly throws the vampire off a little. People call him Wilhelm the Vampire because he hunts so much undead, and his spear drains the life from whatever it stabs. He half-jokes that venom might one day drain and consume him too, before he even realizes it. The two share a meal, and Shin finds the feared vampire is actually surprisingly easy to get along with. Afterward, Shin slips into the library, hoping to finally dig up something solid about this new world. He reads that the Bayrelicht kingdom was founded 511 years ago, right around the time of the Dusk of Prosperity. He also studies the peoples of this world, the very same 7 races that once existed inside the game he played. Meanwhile, a special royal council convenes to discuss the slain Skullface Jack and the strange gear it was carrying. The very idea that someone shrugged off gear rivaling the royal sword clearly unsettles the entire room. The nobles are baffled that its killer didn't even bother to collect the monster's valuable sword or armor. Their appraisal confirms the gem is level 359, a strength that puts the beast right up there with the king. They realize a creature that powerful lurking so near the kingdom is a genuine and frightening threat. One councilman presses about the weapon and learns it's an enchanted alloy blade rivaling the nation's own royal sword. Since that very blade flew into the castle on the same day, some of them suspect the two events are closely connected. They desperately want to identify whoever could defeat a monster wielding such a legendary sword. For now, the kingdom can do little but brace itself and guard against more of these monsters appearing. Out by the wall at sunset, Shin munches a skewer, grumbling that gathering information is far harder than he expected. He grumbles that with Schnee still away, he's completely on his own trying to make sense of this world. A little tiger beast girl stares longingly at his food, so he kindly offers her some to eat. She happily digs in, thanks him, and cheerfully declares that he's a really nice guy. The girl introduces herself as Millie, clearly having taken to the stranger almost instantly. She's a beast girl who doesn't look lost or homeless, which only deepens Shin's curiosity about her. Then Wilhelm turns up to collect her, revealing Millie is one of the church orphanage kids who loves sneaking out. He always comes running to fetch her, since the mischievous little girl is a master at slipping away. He's genuinely surprised she's warmed to Shin, since the shy little girl almost never takes to anyone. Before she's carried off, Millie quietly begs Shin to please save a fox trapped in the northern woods. The strange plea sticks with him, since he has no clue why a child would send him chasing after some fox. Lying on his bed that night, Shin puzzles over why she'd ask him, but decides he might as well go and check. First, he stops by the Moon Sanctum, where Tiara shows him Shni's personal weapon, the sword Blue Moon. Blue Moon is Shni's own blade, kept safe here in the quiet hope that her master will one day return for it. It can only be wielded by its makers, and Tiara swears the thing is so powerful it feels like it could swallow her whole. Shin rattles off its legendary materials, a black death dragon fong, an ocean thrasher scale, and an elemental's tear. Even Tiara can feel the terrifying power sleeping in the blade, and admits she'd never want to wield it herself. He hands Tiara special one-way message cards so she can reach him instantly, no matter where he happens to be. The cards are a rare, convenient magic item, the kind most people in this world have never even seen. She only needs to write his name and say send, and the card will find him from anywhere at all. Delighted, she asks to keep a few extra so she can study the magic and work toward becoming a mage herself. Tiara can barely keep up as Shin casually reshapes what magic in this world is even supposed to be capable of. Tiara tests one, and it works perfectly, leaving her thrilled with her strange new magical toy. Satisfied, Shin heads out, glad he finally has a reliable way to stay in touch with the shop. Then he pushes deep into the dark northern woods to track down the fox that Millie mentioned. The deeper into the woods he pushes, the heavier and more oppressive the air around the shrine becomes. He shoves past a stone guardian and shrugs off a barrier of mental interference trying to drive him away. His mind is shielded from the effect, but the barrier is a clear sign something important waits ahead. At the heart of it, he finds an old shrine standing silently among the trees. The interference screams at him to turn back and leave, but he presses calmly and steadily onward. Inside lies a tiny white fox, and his analyze reveals it's poisoned, cursed, and right on the edge of death. He quickly cures the little thing before its failing body can give out entirely. But the instant he does, his map lights up red with a whole swarm of enemies closing in. He asks the little fox to hold on just a moment while he clears the incoming threat away. Not wanting any more casualties after the last disaster, Shin sweeps the whole pack aside to protect it. He refuses to leave the frightened little fox exposed to the swarm for even a single second. Then something far worse takes shape from a black haze. Twisted invaded golems warped by a creeping miasma. The golems lurch and thrash unnaturally, plainly not behaving like any normal monster should. These things never existed in the game, and one of them clocks in at a staggering level 674. Even Shin is caught off guard, staring down monsters that by all rights simply should not exist. He recognizes the black haze as a miasma, the very force bending ordinary monsters into something monstrous. The miasma drives them into a frenzy, and a thick smoke screen suddenly swallows the whole shrine in darkness. He can't cut loose at full power without risking the tiny fox huddled right beside him. The little fox steadies him, letting him see clearly through the mist from inside its safe magic circle. He first tries Shadow Bind to pin them, but the shifting darkness keeps slipping his hold. With his target finally locked down, Shin binds the golems and finishes them with a single cataclysmic strike. It's a messy, brutal fight, but at last every last rampaging golem lies shattered across the ground. The miasma clears away, leaving the worn-out little fox safe and completely healed. He works fast and precise, unwilling to let the miasma claim anything else in these woods. He kneels down beside it, relieved to find the tiny creature finally out of danger. Curious, he checks it with Analyze and freezes, because it reads as an elemental sitting at level 211. In the game itself, elementals were among the strongest monsters of all, which makes the discovery even wilder. They're supposed to look like giant foxes, so this tiny kit version makes absolutely no sense to him. He gently scoops the fox up, marveling that such a legendary beast could be this small and helpless. Guessing these bizarre new monsters might be a clue to getting home, Shin offers to take the fox along. It clings tightly to him and refuses to let go, plainly understanding every single word he says. Their proper contract can wait, but there's no way he's leaving the tiny elemental behind out here. And far away, a silver-haired woman receives Tiara's message card and breathes out a single stunned word, Master. Straight after last time, Shin sits out in the woods with the little white fox perched on his head, ready to make the creature his partner. He offers it a taming contract, a special bond that hides its true level and species and lets the two of them always stay together. Light wraps around them both as the contract locks into place, and just like that they're officially partners. He decides the little thing really ought to have a name, and after a moment settles on calling it Yuzuha. Yuzuha happily accepts the name, nuzzling against him contentedly from up on his shoulder. Then a message card arrives from Tierra, letting him know she actually managed to reach her master Schnee. Back at the Adventurers Guild, the twin receptionists bicker over which of them gets to take Shin's report. The bickering twins are a running headache, but Shin takes it all in stride as he steps up to report. Silica stubbornly insists on handling it herself, which is oddly out of character for the usually composed sister. He keeps the details deliberately vague, since revealing a tamed elemental would only cause a huge uproar. Shin gives his report on the woods, deciding to quietly keep the little elemental a secret for now. With that done, he wanders over to the job board and spots one unusual, unranked request pinned up. It's a call for a skill successor posted by the church orphanage, and it happens to tie right into saving the fox. The unranked posting intrigues him, hinting at something genuinely special hiding behind such an odd job. Curious about both the strange job and Millie, he heads over to the church to see what it's really about. A stern gray-haired nun named Tria greets him, warily sizing up the stranger asking after the orphanage. Tria admits it's rare for the wary little girl to warm up to anyone the way she has to Shin. Millie bursts out to hug him, and the shy girl's obvious trust convinces Tria that he can't be a bad person. Tria introduces herself properly as a sister of this church and settles in to hear him out. He gently asks Millie about the favor she asked, and she beams that he really did go and save the fox. Shin confirms that the fox Millie asked him to save is the very same one now riding around on his head. Yuzuha dips her head in thanks, and Shin gives all the credit to Millie for pointing him toward the rescue. Then Tria explains her real request, that she badly needs someone who can teach the rare Purify skill. A priest with heal or cure would be expected, but Tria specifically needs the far rarer skill Purify. The church currently has no priest, and a new one has to be able to use a special skill in order to take over. When Shin casually admits that he actually knows Purify, Tria can hardly believe her incredible luck. The instant he says he can teach it, the whole mood of the room shifts with a rush of sudden hope. For payment, she wants no money at all, only information about Millie's power and anything the church happens to learn. Even so, Tria hesitates, unsure that a wandering stranger's help won't come with some hidden price. Shin weighs it carefully, since having the church as a steady source of information would be a huge help out here. Millie quietly insists that Shin is okay, and that alone is enough for Tria to accept the deal. Star Composer lets Millie glimpse things yet to come, a gift that is both precious and terribly dangerous. Tria reveals that Millie carries the rare title Star Composer, which lets her catch fleeting glimpses of the future. Every prediction she has ever made has come true, which is why her quiet warning carried such weight. Those visions have never once been wrong, which is exactly why the little girl asked Shin to go save the fox. If word of that power ever spread, dangerous people would absolutely try to seize and exploit her for it. Guarding that secret is a constant burden the church quietly shoulders for the little girl's sake. That's why only a trusted few, including the fearsome Wilhelm, quietly help keep Millie's secret safe. Shin formally accepts the job while Yuzuha lets the excited orphanage children fuss all over her. The kids swarm the little fox in a giggling pile, every one of them begging for a turn to hold her. The fox becomes an instant favorite, passed happily from one giggling child to the next. Millie hangs back pouting that she'd lose the scramble, then cleverly snatches Yuzuha all for herself. Even Millie can't resist scooping Yuzuha into her own arms for a smug little private cuddle. One of the children reveals the real problem, that a greedy new priest wants to shut the orphanage down. The children clearly adore this home, which only makes the greedy priest's scheme feel crueler. The former priest's granddaughter could inherit the church instead, but only if she manages to learn Purify. Only a proper successor with the right skill can legally keep the orphanage's doors open. So Tria hopes to pass the skill on to that sister and save the orphanage the kids call home. The sister in question, a clumsy but hard-working girl named Lachia, nervously stumbles through her introduction. Lachia is earnest but hopelessly clumsy, tripping over her own words as she tries to greet him. Shin agrees to teach her, though he warns that whether she can actually learn it is entirely up to her. Shin reassures her that with real, honest effort, learning Purify is well within her reach. The kids beg him to save their home, and even the bashful Millie shuffles over asking for head pats. Touched, Shin quietly resolves to protect this place and the children who depend on it. Then Wilhelm strides in with his spear venom, having heard about the adventurer nosing around the orphanage. Wilhelm's mere presence sends a chill through the room, his cursed spear glinting at his side. He bluntly warns Shin that if he ever betrays their trust, he will kill him without a moment's hesitation. He makes it absolutely plain that the orphanage and its children are completely off-limits. Shin calmly promises he won't, and Millie's simple word of trust smooths things over between the two men. With the threat out of the way, they finally get down to how the Purify skill is actually learned. Once the trust is settled, the actual plan for grinding out the Purify skill starts to take shape. To gain it, someone must defeat 200 undead over level 150 while holding a holy prayer orb. Shin will weaken each monster so that Lashia can land the finishing blows and slowly earn the skill herself. The requirement sounds impossible, yet Shin treats the whole thing like a simple afternoon errand. He mentions he already happens to own a holy prayer orb, stunning everyone with how casually he says it. Owning a holy prayer orb outright leaves even the unshakable Wilhelm momentarily speechless. Wilhelm studies him closely, plainly suspecting there is far more to this strange newcomer than he lets on. Later, at a quiet bar, Wilhelm pulls Shin aside to confirm the suspicion nagging at him. Away from prying ears, the vampire finally voices the suspicion he's been quietly piecing together. With Yuzuha dozing on a nearby shelf, he asks point-blank whether Shin is one of the so-called Chosen Ones. Chosen Ones, he explains, are people born with skills, titles, and knowledge they were never supposed to have. Shin carefully dances around the full truth, unwilling to reveal he's a returned high human. Shin realizes it's tied to the game's old reincarnation system, even though he remembers no past life himself. He confirms just enough to satisfy Wilhelm without exposing how deep his real secrets actually run. Wilhelm warns that hardly anyone has even heard of Chosen Ones, so Shin should be very careful who he tells. Shin thanks him, quietly noting that the feared vampire is a genuinely caring man underneath the scary reputation. Beneath all the grim reputation, Wilhelm simply can't stand to watch helpless children suffer. Wilhelm admits he's only stopping the greedy priest because the sound of the crying children grates on his ears. Then Shin notices Wilhelm carries a letter of introduction from the Moon's Sanctum, exactly like his own. Two men carrying Moon's Sanctum letters instantly recognize a rare kindred spirit in one another. Realizing they have far more in common than expected, the group sets off together for the Ghost Plains. Shin hands Lashia the Holy Prayer Orb and firmly reminds her to keep holding onto it no matter what. The fog-shrouded plains hum with restless dead, perfect and perilous in exactly equal measure. The plains are absolutely crawling with undead, making it the perfect brutal training ground she needs. Yuzuha rides along on Shin's head as the group pushes into the eerie, fog-choked wasteland. Shin measures every single strike, careful to leave the actual killing blows for Lashia to claim. Shin steadily weakens the swarming monsters, while Wilhelm holds down the dangerous front line. Lashia lands the finishing blows one after another, rapidly gaining levels off the powerful undead. Level after level pours into the trembling sister as the powerful undead keep dropping around her. She's amazed and a little terrified at how quickly she's growing stronger with every single kill. Her healing magic and holy skills steadily bloom as she polishes off wave after wave of the dead. By the time she's finished, she'll be strong enough to finally seize the Purify skill for herself. Elsewhere on the same plains, Princess Rian and the Dark Knight Godras hunt unusually strong skull-faced jacks. Rian came hunting these skull-faced jacks herself, unaware just how badly outmatched her force really is. But these undead are far tougher than anyone expected, and Rian's elite knights slowly begin to buckle. Their attacks barely scratch the monster, and the whole line teeters on the edge of total collapse. As the knights falter and break, hope arrives in a sudden flash of silver hair and overwhelming power. Then, just as all seems lost, a silver-haired figure steps in, and a knight cries out the name Shni. Picking up from last time, Shni unleashes a wide heel that instantly turns the disastrous battle around. The battered knights thank her, admitting they were moments from a full retreat before she arrived. Their elite forces had been failing to contain the escaping dead, yet she cut the monster down with ease. She humbly credits their own courage, then notes the undead have been strangely escaping the plains for a month. The undead were never meant to leave those plains, yet for a whole month they've been steadily slipping out. It's no wonder, they murmur, that this woman serves at the side of a legendary high human. With the last irregular monster down, she calmly resolves to keep watching over the restless ghost plains. Meanwhile, near Shin, Lashia lands her final kill, and the glow of a newly learned skill washes over her. After a long, grueling grind, the clumsy sister has finally reached her goal. The dazzling effect means she's done it, successfully acquiring the rare Purify skill at last. The long, exhausting mission to teach the clumsy sister Purify has finally, truly paid off. Suddenly the knowledge of how to use it drops straight into her head, and everyone cheers the win. Now, at last, they can do something real to protect the orphanage and its children. The orphanage's whole hope now rests safe with her, and they get ready to head home to Bayrelicht. But a low, wrong sound rolls across the plains, freezing the group where they stand. Shin recognizes the eerie beauty of it immediately as something deeply, dangerously wrong. Shin and Wilhelm spot a beautiful, sinister essence swirling in the dark, feeding on the undead. Even Wilhelm, a hardened veteran undead hunter, admits he has never once seen anything quite like this. The magical essence gathers and takes shape, dragging monsters into a single monstrous form. Lashia stares up in horror as the thing pulls itself together right in front of them. It resolves into a skull-faced lord, an enormous horned monster sitting at a terrifying level 804. It's a monster on the scale of a king, the kind of thing that shouldn't exist near a city. Shin warns this single creature has more than enough power to destroy the entire kingdom. With one casual blow, it shatters the kingdom's protective barrier like it was made of glass. The knights and their kingdom no longer have anything standing between them and this horror. Then the towering lord slowly turns its empty gaze directly toward Shin's little group. The monster's empty eye sockets lock onto them, leaving zero doubt about its murderous intent. Wilhelm shouts for them to break through and run, but Shin plants his feet and refuses to move. He declares that with the barrier gone, he can't possibly let this thing roam free. Shin says limit off and drops his restraints, sending Wilhelm and Lashia sprinting to safety. He can't gamble innocent lives, so he chooses to end the threat himself, right here and now. He gives them a lightning bunker opening and shoves the pair clear of the coming fight. Then, with only Yuzuha at his side, he turns to face the skull-faced lord head-on. He refuses to risk the others' lives, so this brutal fight becomes his and his alone. The monster looms over him with an entire horde swarming at its feet. Even holding back to spare his partner, his sheer strength is on a completely different level. Yuzuha calls up a burst of foxfire, proving the little elemental is a serious partner in a fight. Shin carves through the swarm with Hien and Raikiri, lightning-fast strikes lighting up the night. Dozens of undead fall with every swing, but the towering lord keeps howling and pressing on. The lord roars and presses back, a genuine monster worthy of its absurd level. Then a blue marker blooms on his map, and Shin realizes an ally is racing straight toward him. The fighting melts away into a quiet field of flowers, and a familiar silver-haired figure stands before him. The picture goes still and soft, the raging battlefield giving way to something gentler. The clash of steel gently fades into a soft hush of blooming flowers and endless open sky. For a moment Shin just stares, hardly believing who has finally come to find him. The years of loyal, lonely waiting are written plainly across Shni's trembling face. It's Shni, the support character he created, and the emotion on her face says she's waited 500 years. She quietly presses him for the words she's longed to hear, refusing every wrong answer he gives. Finally, he simply says he's home, and Shni answers, "Welcome back," and leans into him. For her, it's a moment she had almost given up ever letting herself hope for. She confesses she truly believed he would never return, that she should have vanished with the cleared game. But she's here, and so is he, and the reunion he never expected has actually come true. Against every impossible odd, Master and Creation are finally standing together once more. There's no time to linger, so the two old partners turn together to finish the Lord once and for all. One devastating spell together will end the monster and its entire swarm in a single stroke. Standing side by side again, They line up a devastating team move against the monster and its horde. A vast magic circle blazes to life as they call out Sanctuary in perfect unison. It's a technique from their old adventuring days, unleashed after 5 long centuries apart. A tide of pure light erupts, washing the skull-faced Lord and every undead away in an instant. As it dies, the Lord unmistakably speaks, a chilling sign these monsters are more than mindless beasts. That the dying Lord could form words leaves both of them deeply uneasy about what's really out there. When the light fades, the plains fall quiet, and Schnee checks that Shin is truly all right. They didn't learn much from the enemy, but for now the immediate threat is finally over. Sitting among the ruins, Schnee settles in for the long-overdue talk they both need to have. Beneath the calm, Shin quietly carries the weight of everything that happened to her. Shin remembers the day everyone sent him off to fight the final boss, Origin, so long ago. He explains that after his victory a great door opened, and he woke in a meadow, not gone for 5 centuries. Schnee listens quietly, filling in her own side of those lost, chaotic years. She quietly fills him in on the chaos and confusion that swallowed the world after he disappeared. She tells how the support characters realized their masters had vanished and scattered to search for them. Because the crust of the world had shifted, the whole continent fell into chaos back then. In the end, she returned to the Moon Sanctum and simply kept waiting there for him. Everything he says lines up with what she already pieced together on her own. Everything he tells her only confirms the lonely conclusions she reached by herself. Then Shin gently asks her to please stop calling him master, since it would only cause a stir. Flustered, Schnee tries out his name instead, and the simple word clearly hits him hard. He asks how much she remembers from the days this world was still just a game. Everything, she answers, from the very moment she first appeared in that land beside him. She remembers every last moment of it, and firmly refuses to ever let him take that away from her. She admits she always knew she'd disappear once all the players logged out and left. Even knowing that, she never once resented the choice, because it was simply the only option they had. She insists he shouldn't carry any guilt, since at the time nothing else was ever possible. Nearby, Yuzuha dozes peacefully, worn out from the long, brutal battle. Then, to Shin's shock, the little fox suddenly speaks to them in a clear voice. Freed from the miasma at last, the tiny elemental is brighter and sharper than ever. He nearly falls over, demanding to know when on Earth Yuzuha learned to talk. She explains that with the dark miasma gone, her clouded head has finally cleared. But she now has 3 full tails, far too many to keep passing off as an ordinary little fox. At Shin's request, Yuzuha neatly tucks them back into a single tail, easy as anything. She promises to only speak inside his head with telepathy whenever other people are around. Delighted with his clever new partner, Shin decides it's finally time to get moving. He can't help but grin at how quickly his tiny fox partner keeps surprising him. He and Schnee rise from the ruins, ready to catch up with the friends who fled ahead. There's no reason to stay rooted to one place now that master and partner are reunited. They set off at a blistering pace, racing to reach Wilhelm and Lachia before they report in. Those two have stopped, worried sick and wondering aloud whether Shin could possibly be all right. The two have been agonizing over his fate, unable to believe anyone could survive that monster. Then Wilhelm senses something screaming toward them at an unbelievable speed and braces for a fight. It's only Shin and Schnee. Arriving so fast the pair nearly attacks them by mistake. Far away, Princess Rian and the Dark Knight Godras study a strange scar torn across the ground. Something clearly caused this violent rift, and Rian means to find out exactly what. At the very end of the massive rift, they discover a sword left buried in the earth. Something violent clearly carved this rift, and Rian is determined to uncover exactly what did it. The blade is battered and nearly broken, yet it still radiates an astonishing amount of power. A weapon this powerful, treated as disposable, tells them their culprit is no ordinary smith. Carved into it is the unmistakable mark of a falcon, a signature Godras recognizes at once. Only one legendary being could forge a sword this strong and sign it so, the high human Ebon Blacksmith. The legend of the Ebon Blacksmith quietly pulls the kingdom one step closer to Shin himself. The name of a legendary high human hangs in the air as the mystery of Shin draws closer. Continuing right on, Rian's people puzzle over the battered falcon-marked sword left in that violent rift. The rift itself is a raw scar in the earth, proof of the monstrous power unleashed here. Only an extraordinary smith could treat a weapon this powerful as something disposable. The kingdom realizes the blacksmith they're hunting and the legendary Moon Sanctum owner are one and the same. Godras points out that the fabled Ebon blacksmith is said to be the very owner of the Moon Sanctum. Rian is far too intrigued now to simply let this mysterious returned high human slip away. Rian's curiosity flares, half hoping to duel this returned high human, half joking she'd even marry him. Back with Shin, an exasperated Wilhelm finally demands a real explanation for that absurd magic. Schnee Razor is famous for never yielding to anyone, so her open devotion to Shin stuns Wilhelm. He knows Schnee Razor never bows to anyone, so seeing her at Shin's side has thrown him completely. Wilhelm nearly panics, insisting Shin obviously wrecked that whole battlefield and shouldn't play dumb. He can't be fooled, having watched Schnee catch up to them right after that flashy stunt. Cornered, Shin sits them down and lays out the simple, staggering truth of who he really is. It's an enormous thing to swallow, that the easygoing adventurer beside them is a living legend. He admits he's a high human, and that Schnee has always been his devoted support character. That single fact explains the impossible magic, and it leaves Wilhelm reeling all over again. The old tales paint high humans as absurdly strong deities, masters of their chosen crafts. Shin even asks if any records of the high humans survive, and hears they're now treated like living gods. The whole world reveres high humans as godlike figures, unmatched in both strength and craft. He shrugs it off, more interested in bragging that no one can outforge him at a blacksmith's anvil. He casually offers to reforge the cursed spear venom, and Wilhelm flatly refuses to let him touch it. Wilhelm bristles at the mere idea of anyone tampering with his precious, dangerous cursed spear. Lachia can barely process that the legendary Schnee Razor is standing right there in front of her. Schnee politely introduces herself, entirely unbothered by the fuss her mere name causes. It turns out Wilhelm carries his own Moon Sanctum letter, marking him as no ordinary man either. The group agrees to split at the gate, keeping Shin's true strength a shared secret. Whatever ends up happening at the church, they agree, remains entirely their own affair. Wilhelm hands over a message item, gruffly telling Shin to call him if anything ever goes wrong. Lachia insists just as fiercely, refusing to abandon her very first friend and the children he protected. For Shin, having made genuine friends in this strange world clearly means far more than he admits. Touched despite himself, Shin promises he won't hesitate to lean on the two of them. Under all the gruff talk, both of them clearly hate the thought of leaving Shin to face danger alone. Schnee gently remarks that this is simply who Shin is, always shielding the weak without arrogance. With the goodbyes done, Shin and Schnee make their way back toward the Moon Sanctum together. Inside, Tierra happily welcomes her master home, delighted the visitor from the card really came. Then she spots Shin and gapes, completely thrown to find him strolling in beside Schnee. The idea that this laid-back adventurer owns the fabled shop is almost too much for her. He explains he's actually the proprietor of the Moon Sanctum, which nearly makes Tierra faint. Schnee cheerfully confirms it, treating her master's legendary status like the most obvious fact. Realizing she's been casual with the legendary high human owner, she bows and begs his forgiveness. Shin just laughs it off, telling her the sudden formality feels far weirder than her usual self. He'd honestly rather she stay her usual blunt self than suddenly start treating him like royalty. Then he introduces Yuzuha, casually revealing his new partner is a genuine talking elemental. A talking, tail-flicking elemental is the very last thing anyone expected at the dinner table. Everyone marvels at the little fox, and the mood finally softens into something warm and easy. Schnee lays out a feast built from absurd premium ingredients, each dish practically glowing with aura. Most of these ingredients are things ordinary people would never even dream of trying to cook. The meat and vegetables come from legendary monsters and rare plants Tierra can hardly believe. Even Schnee admits she pulled out all the stops for such a rare, joyful occasion. The whole group crowds the table, and for once Shin gets a genuine, peaceful moment of rest. For a man who's fought non-stop since waking here, one simple warm meal quietly means everything. Between bites they trade stories, easing back into the closeness they once shared long ago. Schnee quietly notes the other support characters are out there living freely now too. Just believing he might be alive at all was the most wishful thing any of them dared hope. Shin admits a bittersweet relief that none of them wasted their lives endlessly searching for him. Meanwhile, Tierra, no drinker at all, gets thoroughly, hilariously drunk on the celebratory wine. She wobbles and slurs that there are suddenly two of her beloved Master Schnee. The usually composed elf is a giggling, swaying mess, and nobody can keep a straight face. Laughing, Shin helps carry the tipsy elf off so she can sleep it all off. The moon's sanctum feels calmer and more like home to Shin than anywhere else in this world. Later that night, he settles down to rest, only to feel something warm and heavy climb into his bed. In the dark, he realizes with a jolt that he is very much not alone under the covers. He genuinely cannot work out how he keeps stumbling into these mortifying predicaments. It's a tangle of soft silver hair and Shin flails, absolutely certain this is a disaster. He barely survives the mortifying night without anything truly catastrophic happening. He tries and fails to make sense of exactly how he ended up in this ridiculous situation. Morning comes, and a small silver-furred shape is curled up fast asleep beside him. The little fox has apparently decided that Shin's bed is exactly where she belongs. Then Yuzuha suddenly shifts into a human girl and cheerfully hugs him, warm and completely undressed. Shin panics and throws a garment over her before anyone can possibly walk in on the scene. She insists she likes the outfit, utterly unbothered by the chaos she just caused. Cleaned up, Yuzuha appears in an adorable red hakama, fox ears twitching and green eyes bright. Fox ears perked and tail swishing, she seems utterly delighted with her brand new human shape. Over breakfast, the group finally sits Yuzuha down to ask about her strange little existence. She explains she stayed at that shrine because its pattern was the only thing that eased her pain. The strange shrine pattern, she explains, was the one thing that dulled her constant pain. Back when the land first split, she woke to the world going boom and desperately tried to hold it together. As an elemental, she could wield every element, using them to fight off the raging cataclysm itself. A lone tiny elemental hurling everything it had at a collapsing world is staggering to imagine. But the strain nearly killed her, until Shin arrived at the shrine and saved her life just in time. Piecing it together, they realize the tiny fox may have single-handedly slowed a world-ending disaster. Grateful all over again, the group resolves to bring Millie a thank-you gift of Tierra's baked sweets. Restocking those treats means Shin has to forge fresh swords, since only he can open the armory. He agrees easily, already thinking ahead to what the shop and their journey will need. Then Shin brings up someone he urgently wants everyone to meet, an old friend named Gerard. Shin clearly cares deeply for this old comrade, who has kept waiting through 5 long centuries. Gerard is the legendary first Beast King, founder of the whole beast nation of Farnet. As a high beast, his lifespan is nearly spent, yet he's still quietly waiting for Shin to return. Time is running desperately short, and he refuses to let Gerard pass without seeing him one last time. Tierra is stunned that such a living legend has held on this long just to see her master again. Gerard gathered the beast tribes into a nation and ruled as their very first king. Shin decides they'll leave at once, unwilling to risk missing his old comrade's final days. Schnee confirms it's safe to travel now, so the whole household prepares to hit the road together. For the first time, Tierra will come along too, the shop simply packed up and carried with them. The little family settles their plans, splitting up chores before the big departure. Down in the forge, Yuzuha watches wide-eyed as Shin steps up to the anvil to work. Yuzuha is dazzled, watching her partner shape glowing steel as if it were the easiest thing alive. His crafting skill takes over, and he hammers out blades far stronger than anything sold in the kingdom. Even holding back, his blacksmith's instinct knows exactly where every hammer blow should land. He casually overshoots, enchanting a sword so powerful it can't even be sold as ordinary stock. Meanwhile, Tierra changes into travel clothes, finally free to step out after 100 sheltered years. 100 years behind a barrier melt away as Tierra laughs up at the open sky. She soaks in the fresh air and open weather, giddy at the whole world waiting beyond the door. With the whole shop packed away and everyone ready, the long road to Farnet opens before them. Then the reunited group sets off down the road together, off to find the dying Beast King, Gerard. Continuing on, Shin, Tierra, and Yuzuha reach a bustling town, and the sheltered elf is amazed by the crowds. stalls and shoppers stretch in every direction, and Tierra can hardly decide where to even look first. The sheer size of the market leaves Tierra wide-eyed, drinking in every stall and every face. Tierra bounces around like a kid at a festival, while Shin warns her not to get herself lost. Yuzaha perches contentedly on Shin's head as the trio weaves through the packed, noisy square. They agree to finish their errands first so they can freely explore the lively city afterward. For a girl who spent a century behind a barrier, a simple crowded street feels like a wonder. At the guild, Shin is bumped up to adventurer rank E, rewarded for the skull-faced deeds he reported. The guild quietly admits his real strength deserves far more, but discretion keeps his rank modest. The guild would rank him far higher if it wouldn't instantly make every other adventurer jealous. The receptionist notes he's clearly no ordinary rookie, though a sudden higher rank would draw envy. Tierra's own card starts her at the very bottom, but it's a proud first step all the same. He's also there to register Tierra, finally making the shy elf an official adventurer in her own right. Signing Tierra up feels like a small milestone, the once-hidden elf finally stepping into the world. The receptionist teases that the two were spotted holding hands, flustering Tierra to no end. The gossip about the pair travels absurdly fast, much to poor Tierra's total mortification. The teasing about the two of them being lovers only makes Tierra splutter and blush harder. Shin asks about the holy land he's been chasing, but that information is locked behind rank B. So he files it away for later and instead looks for a job heading in the direction of Farnet. Whatever the holy land hides, he'll have to climb the ranks before the guild will ever share it. The counter offers an escort quest, guarding a merchant's wagon all the way to the town of Bayreun. The escort run to Bayreun lines up neatly with their journey toward the Beast Nation. It pays well and fits their route perfectly, so Shin signs the party up on the spot. A merchant run heading toward Farned is exactly the excuse the group needs to keep moving. With time to spare, they wander the city and swing by the church to see Millie and the sisters. Yuzaha rides along happily as they take in the sights of the sprawling town together. Rashia excitedly pelts Tierra with questions about what life under the legendary Schnee is really like. At the church, Sister Rashia is thrilled to learn Tierra studies under the great Schnee herself. The little ones cling to Shin and beg for candy, and he can't help spoiling them a bit. The orphanage kids swarm Shin, and even Tierra softens completely around the lively little ones. Millie beams up at Shin, delighted that her strange new friend has come back to visit again. He hands out protective charms he made, quietly warding the children against any harm. For all his power, these quiet moments protecting children seem to matter most to him. Even from a distance, Wilhelm keeps his silent watch over the children he refuses to abandon. Wilhelm, they learn, is off keeping an eye on that greedy priest who tried to seize the church. Shin gives Millie and the sisters charms too, just in case any trouble finds them while he's away. Out in town, Tierra proudly shows off her brand new guild card as a real adventurer. Holding a real guild card at last, Tierra finally feels like she truly belongs out here beside him. Then Shin casually pulls out a teleport crystal so they can slip back to the Moon Sanctum. Teleportation is supposedly lost magic, yet Shin hands the crystals out like cheap trinkets. Tierra can only sigh that nothing this man carries ever makes the slightest bit of sense. She's long past being surprised, yet a casual teleport crystal still leaves her utterly speechless. One flash later they're home, and Shin prepares to bring the whole shop along with them. With a single storage command, he packs the entire Moon Sanctum down into its portable mode. The famed, unbreakable Moon Sanctum shrinking into a portable shell is almost too much to process. Tierra watches, dumbfounded, as an immovable legendary building simply folds away into nothing. Business done, they head to the meeting spot where the merchant's escort wagon is waiting. There they meet the other hired adventurers assigned to guard the same run to Bayreun. The hired guards size one another up, a wary mix of strangers thrown together for one long road. The cheerful merchant Nak greets them warmly, eager to reach Bayreun safely with his goods. Nak has no idea he's just hired one of the strongest beings in the entire world. Nak cheerfully places his whole livelihood in the group's hands for the trip to Bayreun. Back at the castle, the kingdom is quietly panicking over the Moon Sanctum's sudden disappearance. Losing that shop rattles the whole kingdom, a piece of lost technology simply gone overnight. The king and his elder daughter fret, deciding to wait for Schnee before making any move. Without Schnee there to reassure them, the anxious court can only sit tight and hope she returns. That vanished legendary shop is a problem reaching far beyond Bayrelicht's own borders. In the wagon, the party meets Gayen, a stern Dragnil samurai, and Tsubaki, a fiery red-haired swordswoman. Gayen's scaled Dragnil frame and Tsubaki's fierce eyes mark them both as seasoned, capable fighters. Gayen reveals he's a rank A samurai, powerful but no help at all when it comes to magic. The samurai are amused that Shin treats their rare, difficult class as nothing special. Tiara introduces herself, and the group sizes up each other's skills for the road ahead. The samurai insist that bandits, not monsters, are the real danger on a road exactly like this one. The samurai warn that on an escort like this, bandits are a far bigger danger than any monster. They pass the time swapping stories, the mismatched party slowly warming up to one another. Shin gets curious about the rare samurai class, and where these two learned such an unusual style. He listens closely, always hungry for any scrap of knowledge about this changed world. That leads to talk of Hinamoto, a distant island nation built by old samurai and ninja guilds. Whole guilds Shin once knew apparently sailed off and founded an entire nation of their own. Shin recognizes those guild names from his game days, amazed they grew into a whole country. The easy conversation rolls on as the wagon rumbles steadily down the long forest road. For a little while the dangerous road feels almost like a pleasant trip among new friends. Then Nak stiffens, spotting something blocking the path up ahead. The merchant's unease spreads through the wagon as the surrounding forest suddenly falls silent. The wagon rolls to a wary stop as trouble makes itself unmistakably known. The mood curdles instantly as armed men fan out across the road to block the way. A gang of bandits steps out, sneering at the merchant to hand over all his money and goods. The thieves fan out with lazy confidence, certain their numbers guarantee an easy payday. Gayen bristles, ready to fight, while the party moves to shield Nak inside the wagon. Shin quietly orders Yuzaha to guard the terrified merchant while the others hold the line. The bandits clearly aren't just any thieves, and they seem to know exactly who they're attacking. That they already know the party's ranks proves this ambush was carefully planned in advance. They leer that they were tipped off, hunting cargo tied to the very church Shin protects. Realizing this ambush was planned tells Shin someone deliberately leaked their route. Then they fix on Tiara, spitting vile threats about what they plan to do to the Red Lady. Their filth aimed at Tiara is the one thing guaranteed to snap Shin's patience completely. Their crude, cruel taunts land exactly wrong, and something in Shin goes ice cold. He gives the bandits one flat warning to leave, and none of them are wise enough to take it. The fight erupts, and the bandits swing enchanted swords they clearly stole from someone strong. Stolen enchanted blades or not, the bandits are hopelessly, fatally out of their depth. Tsubaki flashes forward with flash of vitality, a technique far above her supposed low rank. The party fights well, but their strength is nothing next to the storm Shin has become. But it's Shin who turns terrifying, his gaze gone dark and empty with pure killing intent. Every strike he lands is precise, silent, and utterly, chillingly without mercy. He cuts through their weapons and their ranks with a cold, merciless efficiency that unnerves everyone. For a chilling moment, he looks less like a hero and more like something the bandits should fear. The would-be predators are utterly outclassed, scattered, and broken in mere moments. The survivors realize far too late exactly what kind of monster they chose to rob today. Shin deliberately leaves one alive, meaning to ring out who tipped them off about the church. He wants answers about their informant, unwilling to let more travelers walk into a trap. But Tiara sees the frightening emptiness in him and quietly wraps her arms around his head. Only Tiara's touch can reach him, drawing him back from that cold and distant place. She holds him close, gently pinching his cheeks until the warmth slowly returns to his eyes. In her arms the killing intent bleeds away, and the gentle Shin they know quietly returns. Flustered, she explains it's exactly what Schnee once did to calm her down long ago. She knows that hollow look all too well, because she once wore it herself before Schnee saved her. Neither of them quite knows what to say, both left flushed and awkward in the aftermath. The dark, cold Shin fades away, leaving him blinking and a little bewildered in her arms. Picking up after the ambush, the party learns the bandits were really after cargo tied to the church. The sheer viciousness of the plan tells Shin this was about far more than simple stolen loot. The near massacre makes it clear this cargo mattered enormously to someone dangerous. They meant to slaughter everyone and steal it all, which makes escorting this wagon feel doubly worth it. Whoever planned it wanted the church left leaderless and vulnerable, and that unsettles Shin. It seems no coincidence, as if someone wanted to stop the church from naming its next leader. They roll safely into the town of Bayreun, and a grateful knack hands over their reward and thanks. After days on the rough road, arriving in one piece feels like a genuine victory for everyone. Everyone made it through in one piece, which is really all that matters in the end. The cheerful merchant promises to hire this reliable group again the moment he needs it. A grateful knack hands out certificates of completion for the group to redeem back at the guild. The samurai pair, Gain and Tsubaki, split off here, bound for the distant nation of Kilmot. The samurai wave off, promising to meet again someday if fate ever throws them together. With them gone, Shin weighs how to keep traveling, and decides to buy a wagon of their own. A wagon of their own means comfort and freedom on the long road still ahead. Something roomy enough to sleep and store gear and suits their wandering life perfectly. He wants one big enough to sleep in, ready for whenever Shni catches up to them. Tiara immediately gets suspicious when Shin mentions wanting to modify the thing a little. She's learned by now that his modifications tend to end somewhere completely absurd. He innocently insists he only means to soften the ride, which fools absolutely no one. He swears he won't make it fly or move without horses, which only deepens Tiara's suspicion. The wagon seller warns they'll need strong horses or a tamed monster to haul something this heavy. Monsters make far stronger haulers than horses, if only you can manage to tame one. Shin files that away, already half planning to have Yuzuha transform if they get truly desperate. Then a telepathic call comes through, and it's Shni, finished with her business in the kingdom. Just hearing Shni's voice again instantly puts a small, warm smile on Shin's face. She offers to capture a monster to pull their wagon, promising to reach Bayreun within a single day. Just having Shni back on the way instantly lifts the whole group's spirits. At the castle, she's been swamped, the court frantic over the moon's sanctum vanishing into thin air. Nobles circle her constantly, desperate to bind such a legendary figure to their own banner. She confides she's sick of their endless flattery and thinly veiled attempts to recruit her. The relentless courting and recruiting have clearly worn her patience paper thin. One kingdom even dared claim the moon's sanctum, and she calmly admits she considered wiping it out. There have been marriage proposals too, and Shin can't help admitting he's a little jealous. She teases him mercilessly about the jealousy he tries and fails to hide. With business done, the group wanders the shops, and a stranger points them to a fine place to stay. The stranger's glowing recommendation lands them in a place far pricier than they bargained for. It turns out to be a wildly expensive luxury in that eats up half of their hard-earned reward. Half their reward vanishes in a night. But the luxury is a rare, welcome treat. Shin shrugs it off, figuring it's fine to indulge in a bit of comfort every once in a while. He decides a rare taste of luxury is only fair after everything the group has survived. Yuzuha immediately dives onto the fluffy bed, rolling around in pure delight. The soft bed and warm bath feel like heaven after so long on the hard road. While the others relax, Shin quietly settles in to do maintenance on his weapons. The weapons he tends so carefully are worth more than most kingdoms could ever dream of paying. After a hearty room service dinner, the group unwinds in easy, comfortable company. For a little while, this odd little family simply gets to be at ease together. Yuzuha drags Tiara off for a bath, and the usual cheerful chaos quickly ensues. Bath time turns into a splashing, giggling disaster that Shin very wisely stays clear of. For once, the constantly hunted Shin gets a genuinely peaceful evening of rest. He gazes out at the lovely moon, quietly savoring this rare, quiet moment. Next morning, he heads out to finish modifying the wagon before Shni arrives. He wants the ride perfect before Shni ever sees it, out of pure stubborn craftsman's pride. With his creation skill, he warps the metal in seconds, wildly faster than any normal smith could. His crafting is so absurdly fast that he has to fake doing it the normal way. He catches himself showing off and forces himself to install the rest the slow, ordinary way. Then Shni's telepathy chimes in, telling him she's arrived in the woods beyond the north gate. Whatever she's brought presses on them like a weight long before they even lay eyes on it. They hurry out to meet her, sensing something powerful waiting just ahead among the trees. Whatever it is waiting beyond the gate, both of them can feel its overwhelming presence. There stands Schnee beside an enormous sacred beast, a Grafazio jade she captured to pull the wagon. It's exactly the kind of monster that would send an entire town running in terror. The creature normally tops out around level 650, and its horns mark it as a rare unique specimen. The horned Grafazio jade is a genuinely rare unique specimen, not merely some ordinary beast. Shin sighs that it's absurdly oversized, but Schnee simply anticipated exactly this reaction. Only Schnee would so casually rope a sacred beast-tier monster into hauling a simple wagon. At her word, the massive beast shrinks down to a far more convenient, manageable size. Shrunk down, the sacred beast is suddenly perfect for staying at ordinary inns. It's already taken a warm liking to the group, friendly and gentle despite its terrifying power. Its gentle, friendly nature is wildly at odds with the sheer terror it really ought to inspire. Everyone else is left shaken, since a creature like this would normally make people faint on sight. Schnee names the sacred beast Shimmer, gifted with both illusion and thunder skills. With both illusion and thunder at its command, Shimmer makes a formidable guardian as well. Schnee, as always, has quietly gone far beyond anything Shin actually asked for. Hitched up and ready, Shimmer takes the reins of the wagon as they set off for Farnet. The wagon glides so smoothly that even Schnee's rough handiwork somehow feels like a blessing. Shin marvels that even now they draw stairs, no matter how hard he tries to stay low-key. Shin winces, admitting he once did cruel things just like that back in his gaming days. The ride is unbelievably smooth, outclassing even the royal carriage Schnee once rode in. For a while the journey is peaceful, the sacred beast carrying them tirelessly down the road. Yuzaha translates for the sacred beast, finally letting them all hear its quiet, sad story. Then Yuzaha relays Shimmer's story, and a quiet sadness settles over the group. The gentle giant hauling their wagon carries a heavy, lonely past of its own. Shimmer once ruled a sacred mountain with his mother, until an adventurer struck her down. The image of the frightened pup fleeing its fallen mother tugs hard at everyone's heart. Only Shimmer survived, fleeing until a kind elf girl found and rescued the injured pup. That single act of kindness a century ago has come full circle in the strangest way. Tierra startles, realizing that lost, wounded puppy from a century ago was Shimmer himself. Fate, it seems, has quietly circled the very same kindness back around after 100 years. He followed Shin's group all this way simply because Tierra's scent felt so familiar and safe. Moved, Schnee offers to transfer Shimmer's contract from herself over to Tierra. Schnee wants the beast at Tierra's side, a guardian for the lonely paths she'll one day walk. The bond can be passed freely as long as both sides agree, so they dissolve the old one. Passing the bond takes real trust, and the loyal beast accepts Tierra without hesitation. Tierra nervously forms her own contract with the beast, sealing their reunion in warm light. The bright glow of the new bond seals the reunion between the elf and her old childhood friend. The effort briefly saps her strength, but the joy of it more than makes up for the dizziness. Later, Schnee admits she gave Shimmer to Tierra so he could protect her whenever they can't. Even apart, she'll never truly be alone with a sacred beast watching over her. Now that they're bonded, Tierra can summon the loyal sacred beast to her side anytime she needs him. Even the mighty Schnee softens completely the moment it comes to looking after Tierra. That night they make camp, resting by a small fire under the open sky. Under a spread of stars, the little family shares a rare, quiet night of peace on the road. By morning they reach Ralua Forest, deep on the southeastern edge of the beast nation Farnet. Deep within Ralua Forest, they finally cross into the sprawling beast nation of Farnet. They're a pair of powerful beast folk approach, sent on the orders of the first king to meet them. The beast folk clearly hold Schnee and her companion in the highest possible regard. They turn out to be Gerard's own grandchildren, come to escort Schnee's party in. The group is led to a grand mansion tucked away within the beast nation's heart. Whatever awaits in that mansion, Shin can feel the weight of an old promise drawing near. A face Shin never dreamed he'd see again waits smiling at the end of a long journey. Inside waits Gerard himself, greeting his old master with a grin after 500 long years. Continuing on, Shin finally sits face to face with Gerard, the old friend he never expected to see alive again. Gerard introduces the current Beast King, Wolfgang, his daughter Kor, and his loyal confidants Van Ku and Rajam. The old king plays at ceremony, but his fond, crooked grin gives the whole act away instantly. The reunion is easy and warm, decades and centuries falling away in a few shared words. To everyone else, high humans are legendary, godlike beings, so Gerard plays up the reverence to put them at ease. For the beast folk, simply standing before living legends is almost too much to bear. Behind the formality, though, the two comrades are just thrilled to be reunited after all this time. In a warm flashback, Shin and Gerard fight back-to-back through countless brutal battles long ago. The memories pour out, two old soldiers marveling that they both walked away alive. They reminisce about the impossible odds they somehow survived together, side by side. For a moment, they aren't legends at all, just two old soldiers who somehow made it home alive. Schnee fills in the rest, giving a calm, honest account of how Gerard founded an entire nation. Rather than let him exaggerate, Schnee lays out the truth of his legend with quiet pride. He'd rather have bragged about it himself, but her plain retelling only makes the feat land harder. Even Gerard can't argue with Schnee's unshakable, matter-of-fact honesty about his deeds. Then Gerard asks to hear Shin's story, and listens as he explains being pulled 5 centuries forward. Hearing it all, Gerard finally understands the strange fate that swallowed his master. It finally explains why the old warrior could never find his master no matter how hard he searched. Piece by piece, the long mystery of his vanished master finally comes clear for Gerard. For all the strange trouble Shin's fallen into, Gerard admits it's a genuinely good thing he's back. Even now, the old warrior counts Shin's return among the best things left in his life. Then Gerard says something that stops the room cold, that he is going to die very soon. The words land like a stone, and the warmth in the room turns suddenly fragile. He has perhaps a month left, sensing his time began flowing again only once Shin returned. His body simply knew, waiting to run down its last grains until Shin came back. It's as if the world held his life in place, waiting for his master to finally come home. The request has waited so long that simply speaking it aloud seems to steady the old warrior. Then he makes his true request, the wish he's held on to through 500 long years. This is no sudden whim, but a wish carried quietly across 500 lonely years. Gerard wants to duel Shin, to face the strongest warrior he knows one last time. He wants to fall in battle, not fade away in a bed as his strength slowly leaves him. He longs to test his fangs against someone truly superhuman, and to fall as a warrior should. He would far rather meet his end swinging than slip quietly away in some lonely sickbed. Under the quiet moon, Shin weighs the enormous weight of what his old friend is really asking. To refuse would be the true cruelty, and Shin understands that better than anyone. In the end he accepts, unwilling to deny Gerard this one final, hard-won wish. Kaur and the others struggle with it, unable to grasp how the old king can be so calm. Wolfgang and Kaur can barely accept it, yet they trust the old king's resolve completely. Gerard gathers everyone and openly declares the duel, hiding nothing from those who serve him. He hides nothing, giving his people the chance to stand and witness his final choice. He asks them all to witness it, the final and greatest battle of his long, storied life. It's to be the crowning battle of a life spent leading, fighting, and protecting. The confidants bow, honoring a king who has led them faithfully for 5 whole centuries. Their loyalty runs bone deep, earned across a whole lifetime of battles fought at his side. Alone by a moonlit lake, Gerard quietly confesses how much Shin's disappearance once haunted him. The loss of his master once left the whole world feeling hollow and gray to him. He'd long given up on his wish, certain it would never once come true in his lifetime. Yuzuha watches over the somber night, as the household braces for what's coming. Shin reforges Gerard's old gear, the Death Moon, restoring the weapons to flawless condition. Restoring the Death Moon is Shin's quiet gift, so his friend can fight with everything. The two sit together, and Gerard gently asks whether Shin still means to return to his own world. The question is gentle, yet it cuts straight to the heart of everything between them. Shin answers honestly that going home is the very reason he's kept fighting all this time. Shin won't lie to him, and Gerard wouldn't want him to, even now. It's a painful truth, one that hangs heavy over Schnee even from a distance. Schnee hears the answer she has long dreaded, and quietly keeps her composure anyway. Gerard accepts it without judgment, at peace with a friend who simply wants to go home. There's no bitterness in it. Only two friends making peace with an impossible situation. The old warrior admits he only ever wished for one impossible, happy ending they'll never get. They dream aloud of an ending where everyone could simply live happily, then let it go. So the two just lie back together, savoring one last easy night before the dawn. Morning breaks clear and perfect, exactly the kind of day Gerard wanted for his final duel. Shin leaves Schnee and the others to stop any stray attacks, and simply bear witness. He trusts Schnee absolutely to guard the others while he gives Gerard his all. Gerard steps onto the field grinning like a child, his whole body finally ready for this. Whatever pain his failing body hides, none of it shows through that boyish, eager grin. Wolfgang vows to carry on as king, and Kor swears to become a warrior worthy of the first king's blood. The next generation stands ready, steadied by the example their first king is setting. With his people watching, the old beast king turns to face the strongest man he's ever known. The signal drops, and the two hurl themselves at each other across the wide, open field. From the very first clash, it's plain that this is a meeting of two genuine titans. Their opening exchange alone shakes the ground, blows heavy enough to stagger any normal foe. Every trade of blows is a conversation, two masters speaking a language only they know. Shin grins that Gerard's strikes are as crushing as ever, and the old warrior fires right back. The watching beast folk realize this ferocious clash is still only their warm-up. The onlookers slowly grasp that they are witnessing something almost mythical unfold. Gerard pushes harder, unleashing techniques he spent lifetimes forging just to reach Shin. Lifetimes of training pour out of Gerard in a storm of chained, desperate techniques. The battlefield cracks and buckles under a duel far beyond anything the onlookers imagined. Gerard holds absolutely nothing back, and Shin refuses to insult him by doing any less. Shin admits he won't use the unfair titles he won from the final boss, wanting a fair, honest fight. He meets Gerard head-on at full honest strength, refusing to cheapen his friend's last stand. Shin honors him by meeting that effort with his own true, unrestrained power. Gerard chains his greatest skills together, a strategy born of a lifetime spent training for this. Skill flows into skill, a lifetime's hard mastery unleashed in one furious sequence. Then he transforms, becoming a single blazing fang. Everything he has poured into one final push. Everything the old warrior ever was condenses into that single, shining fang. Their ultimate techniques collide in a searing burst of light and raw, desperate will. For one breathless instant, the whole duel hangs on a single, decisive strike. In that frozen moment, master and warrior are perfectly, wordlessly understood. The watching crowd can only stare, seared by a battle they'll never forget. No one dares breathe as the two straining wills grind against each other for that final beat. Then it lands, Gerard's fang finally reaching Shin and drawing the blow he always dreamed of. That one landed blow is Gerard's whole life's work, finally and fully realized. The dust settles, and the two warriors stand spent in the ruined, silent field. Gerard sinks down, and Shin drops beside him, knowing this is the end. There's no fear left in the old king, only the deep calm of a wish about to be granted. Glowing with quiet satisfaction, the old king says his long-awaited wish is finally fulfilled. There's not a trace of regret on his face, only the peace of a warrior who did what he set out to do. He leaves the world exactly as he lived in it, unbowed and utterly without fear. He asks one last thing of Shin, then bids his master a soft, contented farewell. His last words are for Shin alone, a quiet trust passed from one warrior to another. Wolfgang, Kor, and the confidants gather, holding back their grief for their fallen king. A king who gave 5 centuries of service is honored best by standing tall, not weeping. Shin declares that Gerard landed a true blow on a high human, ascending to their level in the end. By landing that single blow, they say, Gerard rose to stand among the high humans themselves. They gaze on his satisfied face, refusing to weep, sure he'd only laugh at their tears. The grief is real, but so is the pride, and Shin carries both as the long night falls. Later, beneath the moon, a quiet Schnee gently tells Shin that now, at last, he's allowed to cry. Continuing on, Shin, Shni, and Tiara slip on beast-ear disguises so the conspicuous elves can blend in. Only the clever disguise lets the striking elves move through the crowd completely unnoticed. For once, the flashy elves can walk freely, hidden as a pair of ordinary beast folk. The cosplay items perfectly conceal their true races, and Shin can't help admiring how well they work. Shin marvels that the joke items he once made for fun turned out to be genuinely useful. It feels strange to mourn a warrior who died exactly as he always wished to. So disguised, the group heads out to pay their respects and attend Gerard's funeral. Representatives from many nations gather to mourn the passing of the legendary first Beast King. The sheer turnout shows how deeply the old Beast King was respected all across the world. Among them stands the envoy from Kilmont, a towering high Dragnir named Schwade. Kilmont sending its founder in person shows just how much Gerard's death matters. He was once Shin's support character and founded the great dragon empire of Kilmont himself. Schwade was originally meant to be Kilmont's true first emperor before an old injury changed that. Schwade immediately kneels, vowing to serve as the spear that pierces his master's foes once more. The reverence High Human's command still catches Shin off guard every single time. Shin gently waves off the formality, telling him to just relax like an old friend. The stiff Dragnir plainly worships his master, treating each of Shin's words like a command. Only when Shni vouches for it does the stiff, loyal Dragnir finally agree to ease up. Schwade confesses he's spent these quiet centuries simply waiting for his master's return. Over tea, the reunited comrades catch up on the long centuries they spent apart. The two trade stories across the centuries, marveling at all the lost time between old friends. Schwade explains he was only ever a stand-in emperor, and now lives quietly at his leisure. He long ago cut every tie to the imperial family, content to simply live at his leisure now. Then he produces a gift, Shin's own personal weapon, the blade Najizuki, carefully maintained. Holding Najizuki again feels utterly natural in Shin's grip after all these long years. Thanks to Shin's improved mana control, the restored weapon is now 5 times stronger than before. The Dragnir's careful upkeep turned an old favorite into a genuinely fearsome weapon. With the funeral behind him, Shin decides it's time to raise his adventurer rank towards C. He'd like his rank higher before digging any deeper into the mysterious Holy Land he's chasing. He takes a simple goblin-slaying job, and Kuor happily insists on tagging along. Kuor is thrilled to watch a legendary high human handle even a pack of lowly goblins. The work is quick and easy. The monster's no match for a party like his. Kuor watches wide-eyed, still adjusting to just how effortless it all is for him. Job done. They turn to inspecting how the Ralua forest is recovering after the great duel. For Shin, it's barely a warm-up. The entire quest wrapped up in just a few easy moments. The battlefield has already healed over, nature reclaiming the ground where Gerard fell. Seeing the forest thrive again brings a small, quiet comfort after the loss. Then a message arrives for Shin, a summons calling him to the palace in Bayrelicht. Whatever the crown wants, he strongly suspects it all ties back to that runaway sword. No one knows quite why the crown wants him, but he can hazard a single uneasy guess. A royal summons is rarely simple, and Shin braces for whatever the crown wants. Before leaving, he decides there's something important he needs to hand over to Wolfgang. There's one last duty he flatly refuses to leave the Beast Nation without fulfilling. Kuor fetches her father, the Beast King, so Shin can speak with him directly. Wolfgang answers the summons himself, still quietly grieving the mentor he just lost. Shin presents Gerard's restored gear, the Death Moon, exactly as the old king wished. Honoring the first king's final wish means far more to Wolfgang than any treasure could. Wolfgang is stunned to receive the first king's legendary weapons, repaired to flawless condition. The first king's weapons are a sacred trust, and the Beast King receives them with reverence. He solemnly accepts the responsibility of deciding who will one day inherit them next. Then Shin teleports the group all the way back to where the Moon Sanctum once stood. Old habits die hard, and watchful eyes still linger on the spot the shop once stood. He senses someone watching the spot, still hoping the fabled shop might reappear there. Even now, the fear of losing him again lingers just beneath Shni's calm. Quietly, Shni asks whether Shin is going to disappear on her all over again. Her fear isn't jealousy, just the ache of maybe waiting out another long, empty century. He reassures her, and she admits she simply couldn't bear waiting for someone who might never return. She's carried that quiet dread ever since the day he first vanished from this world. Long-lived elves, she explains, would gladly wait forever, so long as they have a reason to. For a being who lives for ages, losing your reason to wait is its own quiet kind of ruin. It's a rare, vulnerable moment, and Shin gently promises not to leave her wondering. Back at the Bayrelicht Guild, the receptionist welcomes the ever-popular adventurer warmly. The guild has clearly grown fond of their strange, impossibly capable regular. She teases that he's always surrounded by beautiful women, flustering the whole group. The easy teasing hides just how unusual an adventurer Shin truly is. Then he's shown in to meet Bayrelicht, along with a guild appraiser named Arad. Arad's sharp eye is exactly what unraveled the whole mystery of who forged that blade. Arad is the mage who assessed both the skull-faced gem and that infamous flying sword. Shin is led into a back room to finally learn why the palace tracked him down. A stray sword punched through a princess's wall is not something a kingdom simply forgets. Arad reveals the runaway sword crashed into the second princess's very bedchamber. The sheer value of that stray sword turned a small accident into a royal affair. Its enchantment and materials rival the royal sword, making it far too valuable to ignore. That the blade rivals the royal sword makes its unknown maker utterly impossible to ignore. The blade carried traces of a foreign mana, distinct from the weapon's own. The foreign mana clinging to it was the very thread they pulled to trace their way to him. That residual mana matched the skull-faced gem Shin turned in, like a kind of fantasy fingerprint. It's essentially magical evidence, tying the weapon straight back to its maker. Following that trail led the crown straight back to Shin as the one responsible. There was no fooling them once the two mana signatures lined up perfectly and exactly. With a Moon Sanctum letter in hand, though, his situation isn't nearly as dire as it could be. His Moon Sanctum connection is the one thing keeping this from turning into a real crisis. Bayrelicht explains the summons comes from the second princess, Bayreun, herself. Bayreun herself has taken a personal interest, making this far more than a mere formality. The incident has piqued her personal interest, and she means to meet the man behind it. Bayrelicht warns that the kingdom will likely push hard to recruit or even marry him off. A nation's strength scales with its chosen ones, so they'll want to bind him tight. Suddenly far less eager to go, Shin weighs how to keep his freedom intact. Being courted or married off to nobility is the very last thing the free-spirited Shin wants. Shni suggests he could simply claim to already be spoken for if pressed about marriage. He could even name Tiara as a pretend fiancé to fend off any awkward proposals. The idea flusters everyone, and the scheme immediately threatens to run out of control. Yuzuha gleefully declares she'll be his fiancé too, spiraling the plan into chaos. With his cover story half assembled, Shin finally heads to the towering Bayrelicht castle. Cover story half in hand, he steels himself for whatever the crown decides to throw at him. There the Dark Knight Godras, one of the realm's mightiest warriors, arrives to escort him. Sending a warrior as strong as Godras signals just how seriously the palace is taking him. Dressed up formally, Shin is led through the opulent halls toward the waiting princess. The palace spares no splendor, every hall dripping with gold and quiet power. Godras sizes him up quietly, clearly no ordinary guard sent for an ordinary guest. At last he's ushered before Bayreun, the second princess of the kingdom. The princess turns out to be nothing at all like the aloof, stiff royalty he braced for. She waves off all etiquette, cheerfully insisting that he simply call her by name. Bayreun's blunt, easy manner is nothing like the stiff royalty Shin expected. Godras frets at her informality, but Bayreun would rather not build walls with a possible ally. She confirms he's a chosen one, having read him instantly with her uncanny intuition skill. Her intuition pegs him as a chosen one before he can even get a single word out. Her hunches are never wrong, and the Moon Sanctum letter erased any lingering doubt. Her intuition has never once failed her, making her frighteningly hard to fool. Satisfied he's no assassin, she finally gets down to the real reason she summoned him. Convinced at last that he means no harm, she drops every pretense and speaks her mind. With a bold, delighted grin, Bayreun lays out exactly what she wants from him. To Shin's total bewilderment, the princess declares that she wants him to fight her. It's the last thing he ever expected to hear from a princess, and it leaves him stunned. A princess flatly demanding a duel is honestly the very last thing Shin saw coming. Continuing on, Rion brushes aside Godra's protests and simply teleports Shin off to a private arena. Teleport points like this predate the dusk of prosperity, their full purpose still a mystery. It's an old training ground, they say, built long ago for battles between chosen ones. The ancient arena was clearly built for exactly this kind of clash between the game's chosen ones. Shin can only go along with the pushy princess as she sets up their impromptu duel. The oversized weapons look almost comical drawn in the flesh instead of on a game screen. Each of them picks a weapon, and Rion insists he hold absolutely nothing back. Rion insists on a real fight, promising to take him seriously if he does the very same for her. Godras looks on uneasily as his princess squares off against the mysterious adventurer. For all her royal poise, Rion fights like a seasoned, battle-hungry warrior. At the signal, she opens by hurling her own sword, trying to catch Shin off guard. For all his hidden strength, Shin plays it careful, matching the princess blow for measured blow. He dodges cleanly, and the two settle into a fast, evenly matched exchange of blows. Neither will give an inch, two evenly matched blades ringing across the arena. Rion adjusts her stats to fight a melee opponent on even footing, then presses her attack. She's genuinely skilled, reading his movements and countering faster than most warriors ever could. They both invoke the very same flashing vigor skill, boosting themselves in perfect mirror. It's less a test now than a genuine contest between two dangerous fighters. Their reaction speeds are nearly identical, and neither can gain any real edge. Two identical skills simply cancel out, leaving only raw ability to decide who comes out ahead. Rion grins that settling this won't be easy, clearly enjoying the challenge. The longer it drags on, the wider Rion grins, thrilled to finally face a worthy challenge. The clash tears up the arena until Shin's borrowed sword finally reaches its limit. He's careful to match her skill without ever revealing the depths he keeps hidden. With his blade failing, they agree to call the duel there, the assessment complete. She judges his reactions and swordsmanship as easily rivaling her own considerable talent. Impressed, Rion offers Shin a respectable position serving the kingdom. Serving the crown would mean strings attached, and Shin values his freedom far too much. He politely declines, far preferring the free and open life of an adventurer. Serving any kingdom would only chain him down, and Shin has zero interest in a gilded cage. She takes it in stride, telling him the offer stands if he ever changes his mind. Rion respects the refusal, more intrigued by the strange adventurer than offended by it. Then talk turns to the skull-faced sword, and an awkward local custom surrounding it. The sword she'd used to strike down an unfaithful husband is now, awkwardly, his gift to her. In this kingdom, a man gifting a woman a sword is essentially a marriage proposal. The whole marriage by sword custom leaves Shin flustered and desperate to change the subject. Since his blade crashed into her chamber, Rion teases that he's technically already proposed. She fully intends to keep the powerful blade, proposal or no proposal. The moment is shattered when Cardinal Greril appears, glassy-eyed and clearly not himself. Mind-affecting skills are strictly taboo, punishable even for royalty by death. Godras catches the collapsing priest, who's been struck with both charm and confusion. Whoever cast forbidden mind magic on a cardinal is clearly playing an extremely dangerous game. Before anyone can react, a spell fires and whisks Shin and Rion away. Someone is clearly lurking in the shadows, pulling strings from out of sight. They come to among the ruins of the fallen Holy Land, a place called Kalkia. Stranded in the crumbling Holy Land, the two must find their own way back to civilization. Only the two of them were teleported, stranded far from the kingdom with no easy way back. Escaping alone would be trivial for Shin, but not without giving his secrets away. Shin decides against using lost teleport magic, unwilling to expose his full power to Rion. He'd rather stay stuck than flash lost magic and get locked away as too valuable to ever release. Instead, he reaches Shni by telepathy to sort things out from the outside. He explains the charmed cardinal and asks her to handle matters back at the palace. With Shni handling the palace, Shin trusts her completely to untangle the entire mess. They agree to regroup at the walled city of Volmer once everyone's safe. Even apart, Master and Creation coordinate flawlessly across the whole kingdom. Elsewhere, Shni reassures a worried Tiara that Shin is perfectly alright. Even from far away, The bond between master and support character never misses a single beat. Then she announces urgent business and sweeps Tierra and Yuzuha along to the palace. She explains their enemy is a demon, a monster born from miasma and human suffering. The more human a demon appears, the more cunning and lethal the creature tends to be. Demons are ranked like nobles, and the more human they look, the stronger and smarter they are. Inside a miasma, these demons only grow stronger and harder to put down. Since this one used mind control skills, Schnee pegs it as an intelligent count-class demon. Anything clever enough to puppet a cardinal is no mere mindless beast of the miasma. Cloaking them in a concealment spell, she prepares to slip into the castle unseen. Schnee's idea of stealth is characteristically bold and utterly unlike anyone else's. Rather than sneak, she boldly flies them straight over the walls and inside. Schnee's brand of infiltration is less sneaking around and more calmly walking straight in. They descend toward the dungeon, where the charmed cardinal is being held. Hidden in plain sight, Schnee and Tierra glide past the guards without a sound. Wrapped in her concealment spell, the pair drifts through the castle like a couple of ghosts. The real demon, she reveals, has already quietly slipped into that very cell. She's already read the whole situation, several steps ahead of the enemy. She greets the shaken Greril, who remembers nothing of the spells cast upon him. The poor cardinal recalls nothing, his memory shredded by the two overlapping curses. Then she calmly moves to dispel the lingering status effects clinging to the priest. A single gentle wave of purify is all it takes to strip away the monster's careful disguise. The purge tears away an illusion, exposing the true monster hiding right beside him. Only a little purify magic was enough to drag the true fiend into the light. It's the count-class demon Magnamuk, a grotesque, many-eyed horror wearing a mask. The masked horror sits fully revealed, a many-eyed abomination that had hidden in plain sight. Schnee strikes, without hesitation, shielding the cardinal from the demon's lunge. It's exactly the kind of monster that should never be left to roam among people. She won't let it run wild, refusing to let it disgrace the name of the Moon Sanctum. She refuses to let the thing loose to shame the legendary shop she proudly calls home. The demon sneers that high humans slew countless of its kind, but that age is long past. It gloats that the warriors who once purged its kind have long since left this world behind. It urges Schnee to abandon the humans who now lean so heavily on her power. The demon believes humanity's age is ending, its warriors long since gone. Then it twists the knife, claiming her master abandoned her and will never return. The demon presses on her deepest fear, that the master she waited for is gone for good. For a moment its words land, probing the old wound she's carried for 5 centuries. It picks at the loneliest fear she's nursed since the day her master vanished. For a single heartbeat, the ancient loneliness flickers behind Schnee's calm, guarded eyes. But she draws Blue Moon, and the demon realizes with horror the high humans have returned. The sight of that legendary blade shatters every certainty the demon had left. Any doubt it planted crumbles, and Schnee cuts the Count-class demon down without mercy. One clean stroke ends the Count-class demon before it can spread any more of its poison. Afterward, she reports everything to the king and his elegant elder daughter. The court reels to learn the demons of old legend are stirring in the world once again. The court is alarmed that history's demons walk again, wielding forbidden mind magic. That such creatures move again is a grave and frightening turn for the kingdom. Schnee clears the blameless cardinal, who was only ever a puppet of the creature. She makes certain no blame falls on the cardinal, who was only ever the demon's helpless tool. Greril vows to serve even harder, grateful to be freed from the demon's grip. A grateful Greril swears to redouble his service now that the cruel curse is finally broken. With information control urged on the crown, Schnee makes ready to leave at once. The crown scrambles to keep the chaos quiet before it can unsettle the people. She sweeps Tierra along, declaring they'll simply run all the way to distant Valmer. There's no time to lose, so Schnee simply decides they'll cover the whole distance on foot. Tierra can barely hold on as Schnee's blistering pace leaves the whole world blurring by. And so they tear off at an impossible speed, racing to reunite with Shin. Continuing on, Shin and Rion are still stranded in the crumbling ruins of the fallen Holy Land, Kalkia. This is Rion's first time inside a fallen Holy Land, and even she finds it unnerving. Rian explains that Holy Lands were once great cities that collapsed during the dusk of prosperity. Even the mighty princess never dreamed she'd wind up trapped inside one of these fallen cities. Clearing the monsters inside supposedly takes several chosen ones working together at once. Whatever waits within, it's meant to be a challenge for a whole party of powerful chosen ones. They search for the gate mechanism, hoping to take a shortcut straight out of the ruined city. But when Shin tries to leap the wall, he's mysteriously yanked back down to the ground below. The dungeon bends space itself, flatly refusing to let anyone simply climb their way to freedom. Rian watches him vanish above the wall and reappear right where he started, baffled. Every attempt to climb out simply resets him, like the ruins themselves refuse to let go. Then Shin spots a glowing ball of light and realizes the entire city is actually a dungeon. That means they can only escape by following a set route through the ruined streets. It works just like the dungeons Shin remembers from back when this world was only a game. Straying from the path just teleports them back, so they must chase the spheres in order. Follow the glowing markers in order, defeat what blocks the way, and the exit will finally open. Rian is quietly relieved she got teleported in with someone who could crack the mystery. So the pair sets off through the dungeon, advancing carefully from one glowing sphere to the next. Shin scouts each teleport first, making sure it's safe before letting the princess follow. He'd rather face any hidden danger himself than risk letting the princess walk into it. He insists on taking the dangerous role himself, since escaping any trap would be trivial for him. Shin quietly maps the danger ahead, always stepping between Rian and whatever might be lurking. Before long, they run into a ghostly monster lurking around a corner of the ruins. It's a Gilly-Wei-Eyes, a level 500 spirit that wields both earth and wind magic. Shin has Rian land the finishing blow while he sets the creature up perfectly for her. The ghost opens with a brutal spell, a stark reminder these are no ordinary ruins. Her light enchanted sword hits the ghost's weakness, and it falls faster than she expected. One well-timed opening from Shin lets the princess finish the ghost off with surprising ease. Impressed, she asks about his blade, and he reveals it's Kakura, a mid-tier mythic weapon. He plays it modest, but Rian can plainly tell this man is hiding real, staggering depth. The idea that he casually carries such treasures makes Rian even more curious about him. He admits with a grin that he's got far more than just 1 or 2 cards up his sleeve. They press deeper, and Shin senses over 20 more monsters lurking through the dungeon. The next sphere drops them near a large slime, and Rian charges in overconfident. She charges in thinking a slime is easy, and instantly regrets underestimating it. The Gilly proves nasty, immune to slashing and blunt hits, and clever enough to give chase. The slime is immune to steel, and stubborn enough to chase them relentlessly through the ruins. Shin quickly warns her back and reminds her these Holy Land monsters are nothing to trifle with. In a Holy Land, even the humblest-looking monster can be shockingly deadly. Working together, they destroy its core with a precise strike and put the slime down. Even outmatched, Rian holds her own once Shin points out exactly how to fight the thing. As they rest, Shin keeps awkwardly looking away, flustering the sharp-eyed princess. It turns out her battle-torn outfit is leaving rather too little to the imagination. He scrambles to spare her dignity, far more flustered than the calm princess herself. He hurriedly tosses her a spare garment before things get any more embarrassing. He's honestly more embarrassed than she is, fumbling to hand her something decent to wear. Ever the prepared traveler, Shin has spare clothes and supplies stashed in his item box. Rian marvels at how thoroughly ready for anything the strange adventurer always seems to be. Far away, Schnee and Tierra race across the plains on Shimmer, tearing toward Volmer. Even apart, Schnee is already racing to be wherever her master might need her most. Back in the dungeon, Rian asks whether Shin can teach her any usable combat magic. Her own spells are far too weak for Holy Land monsters, so she asks him to teach her something better. He decides to show her a clever trick, checking with Schnee before passing it along. Widespread, such a skill could save countless lives from the monsters that hunt people. It's an imitation enchantment, a forgery that mimics a real elemental one in a pinch. With a single demonstration, a plain sword suddenly burns as if truly enchanted with real fire. The fake enchant will wreck any weaker weapon, but it's genuinely useful in a bind. She insists on repaying him somehow, unwilling to keep taking his gifts for nothing. Rion hates taking without giving, so Shin simply asks her to protect her kingdom and people. He turns down her thanks, asking only that she guard everything and everyone she holds dear. Privately, he winces, knowing that imitation trick was really just an old game exploit. One earnest look from her, and all his careful excuses come apart at the seams. Her earnest, admiring looks make it very hard for him to keep pretending to be ordinary. As they near the exit, Shin suddenly feels something strange trying to pull him back inside. Something in the ruins is calling to him, refusing to let the two of them just walk away. Against his better judgment, they turn back to investigate the odd sensation. It feels almost like the ruins themselves are conspiring to keep the two of them trapped. They find a bizarre, icy formation, unlike any normal monster egg either of them has seen. Mana warps the air around the strange shell as a brand new monster forces itself into being. Something powerful is clearly being born, and it doesn't want the two of them to leave. This is no creature from the old game, and even Shin doesn't fully know what it is. The shell breaks, and a massive griffin made of ice bursts out into the ruins. It instantly tries to freeze them with its breath, forcing the pair to leap clear. Its freezing breath sweeps the ruins, and only Shin's speed keeps them both from being frozen solid. Rion strikes hard with Tyrant Beat, cracking the beast with everything she's got. Shin follows with a blazing flare burst, and for a moment the fight seems already won. For one heartbeat, they think it's over, until the beast knits itself whole again before their eyes. But the shattered griffin simply regenerates, restoring itself to perfect health. A monster that heals from any wound turns a simple fight into an impossible one. Both of them stare in disbelief as the monster shrugs off a fatal blow like nothing. No amount of damage sticks to it, and a straight fight against the thing is simply hopeless. Shin guesses it's a construct made by magic, endlessly healed by some hidden spell. There must be a spell hidden somewhere, quietly stitching the beast back together. He sends Rion off alone to find the gate mechanism while he holds the beast's attention. He trusts her with the gate while he keeps the unkillable griffin fixed squarely on himself. She races to search the ruins, trusting him to survive the monster on his own. Left unwatched at last, Shin quietly drops every restraint and murmurs limit off. Free of prying eyes, he can finally fight the way a returned high human truly fights. In his full power form, he stops holding back, hunting for whatever keeps the griffin alive. At full power, the returned high human is on a level the poor monster can't begin to match. He finds a white sphere absorbing his attacks, the true source of the endless regeneration. Destroy the source, he reasons, and even an unkillable monster becomes mortal again. Enveloping it in golden light, he severs the spell and finally halts the beast's recovery. Cut off from its hidden lifeline, the griffin is finally, truly mortal once again. Then a single overwhelming flame strike erases the griffin from existence entirely. In an instant, the impossible foe is nothing but scattered light and settling dust. Rion rushes back to the blast, stunned to find the monster simply gone without a trace. She never once sees the overwhelming strength he unleashed the instant she was out of sight. Shin plays it cool, and together they hurry at last toward the dungeon's open gate. He waves off her questions, keeping the truth of his overwhelming power to himself. They step free of the Holy Land and set course for Volmer, east of the Melt Mountains. Elsewhere, an exhausted Tierra flops in the grass, while Schnee pushes Shimmer faster still. The whole way there, Schnee refuses to slow, driven to reach her master before trouble can. The sacred beast tears across the countryside, closing the distance toward the walled city. Night falls, and Shin makes a comfortable camp for himself and the weary princess. Over tea, Rion teases him about how absurdly well-stocked and prepared he always is. She admits she likes that he treats her plainly, not with the careful distance royalty always gets. As royalty, she's used to walls and formality, so his blunt honesty is a rare comfort. Missing the closeness of family, she quietly leans against him by the warm firelight. For once no one is watching her, and she simply savors a rare, unguarded moment of peace. The quiet doesn't last, shattered the moment danger appears on the distant horizon. The peaceful night ends in a heartbeat as that distant smoke signals a gathering disaster. Then Shin spots smoke on the horizon, a monster horde massing and marching on Volmer. Continuing right on, Shin and Rion watch a massive horde of monsters massing to march on Volmer. The overflowing horde blots out the whole land, an unstoppable tide rolling toward the walled city. The overflowing magic of a fallen holy land twists into monsters and pours out in a black tide. He explains it's a flood, magic matter from a holy land overflowing and bursting out as monsters. Volmer stands as the one barrier holding disasters like this back from the rest of the kingdom. Volmer is built as a bulwark against such floods, but the walled city always pays a terrible price. Shin refuses to just walk away, so the two hurry to reach Volmer and join its desperate defense. Inside the city, he reports the incoming flood to the guild master, Bayrelicht. Shin has seen a flood before, and he knows exactly how much devastation one can bring. His Moon's Sanctum letter erases any doubt, and the Baron declares a full state of emergency. The Baron takes the warning gravely, knowing exactly how many lives a major flood can cost. The guild scrambles to warn every faction and begin evacuating the frightened citizens. Even a strong city like Volmer can only brace itself and pray its walls hold. Shin offers his own strength, a huge boon for a city short on chosen ones to defend it. The city is dangerously short on chosen ones, so Shin's offer is worth more than any gold. Wandering the streets, he stumbles on a curious shop with a cat paw sign called Meow Land. The city bustles with grim preparation as everyone readies for the coming onslaught. A shop marked with a cat's paw stirs an odd, familiar memory in the back of Shin's mind. Then a familiar face appears, and Shin realizes it's Bayreut, another of his old support characters. The money-loving merchant is delighted to reunite, and the two sit down to catch up over tea. Bayreut offers his help against the flood, glad to aid an old friend of his master. Bayreut has quietly kept careful tabs on every survivor scattered across this changed world. Old friends from the game keep turning up alive here, each reunion stranger than the last. Then he reveals something huge, a list showing there are other former players alive in this world. Just learning that other players survived the death game leaves Shin genuinely shaken. The revelation reshapes everything Shin thought he understood about this second life. Worse, Bayreut also keeps a running list of known player killers, the PKs who murdered for fun. The player killers are exactly the kind of monsters Shin once swore to stop for good. Those deviants slaughtered countless people during the death game, Shin's friends among them. He believed those friends long dead, and the thought some survived stirs a fragile hope. When players were first found here, it was Schnee who insisted they hunt the PKs down at once. Schnee acted quietly to protect him, hunting killers before he ever had to know. And she never told Shin any of it, which Bayreut half-jokingly calls an act of betrayal. Betrayal or not, he knows in his heart Schnee only ever acted to spare him more pain. But Shin refuses to doubt her, certain Schnee would never hide anything to truly hurt him. Bayreut teases that he only wants to stock up, since a flood leaves piles of valuable materials. For Bayreut, even a catastrophe is just another chance to turn a tidy profit. The greedy merchant is already dreaming of the profits the coming disaster will bring. Then Schnee and Tierra finally arrive in Volmer, reuniting the whole group at last. Lord Toro receives them warmly, grateful for any strength at all before the storm hits. They're brought before Lord Toro to plan the city's defense against the incoming horde. The Lord lays out a careful plan, every squad given its place against the horde. The strategy sets the chosen ones out front, with knights behind to catch anything that breaks through. The plan hinges on Schnee's devastating magic thinning the horde before it reaches the walls. Schnee will lead a second squad, hammering the flood with massive area spells once they're in range. Tierra will join the fight too, and Schnee cheerfully signs her up for some brutal training first. Tierra pales at the mention of Schnee's training, which she knows from experience is pure hell. Shin quietly warns the others that a flood this large may be led by a powerful event boss. Shin suspects an in-game event, the kind that always crowned its floods with a boss. The whole reunited group braces together, knowing the coming night will test every one of them. The reunited friends steel themselves together as the sun sinks toward the coming battle. Night falls, and an eerie stillness settles as every nearby monster vanishes without a trace. The unnatural quiet is the surest sign that something enormous is about to break loose. Shin recognizes it instantly, the calm before the black wave of a full-scale flood. The monsters gather silently in the dark, then rush forward as one overwhelming black wave. At last the horde surges forward, and Schnee steps up to open the battle. She unleashes Blue Judge, a colossal spell that scythes through the front of the flood. Her single enormous spell buys them precious ground, but nowhere near enough of it. But the monsters keep coming, and it's clear this is no ordinary flood at all. Schnee can't chain her biggest spells, so the rest of the defense falls to everyone else. Shin joins the fray, kiting the horde with sweeping blasts of Amber Wave and Phoenix Sage. Shin fights carefully, still holding back his true power with the princess watching nearby. Tiara fights fiercely with the Bao Shin modified, amazed at just how powerful it is. The defenders hold the line as wave after wave of monsters crashes against the city. The battlefield becomes a storm of arrows, blades, and magic against an endless swarm. Tiara pushes too hard and burns through her mana, leaving herself dangerously exposed. Overextended and drained of mana, Tiara suddenly finds herself in real, immediate danger. Just in time, Wilhelm and Lachia arrive to reinforce the struggling front. The vampire and the young sister are a welcome sight, steadying the wavering line. Wilhelm shields Rion while Lachia restores Tiara's mana, turning the tide back. With the line reinforced at last, the defenders steady and force the swarming monsters back. Then, apart from the others, Shin steps out as a masked figure who simply calls himself Red. He clears the civilians away, warning that this cursed weapon spares nothing around it. As the masked Red, he keeps his true identity hidden while carving clean through the horde. He wields a screaming cursed scythe, drawing every monster's aggro straight to himself. As Red, Shin can finally cut loose without exposing his true face to the world. The blade hungers to consume everything, and even Shin has to talk down its bloodlust. The cursed scythe is perfect for a flood, dragging every monster's fury onto him alone. Then he finds it, the demon leading the flood, the true event boss behind the horde. It's the same breed of demon that's haunted the kingdom, hiding at the heart of the flood. Its mind-affecting attack is useless against a high human, and Shin ends it with limit off. One unleashed high human is simply more than any demon of this age can withstand. The monsters are exterminated to the last, and Volmer survives with 0 casualties. Against a fully unleashed high human, even the demon leading the flood stands no chance. Afterward, the grateful city holds a grand ceremony to honor those who fought so hard. A reluctant Shin is dressed up, joined by an elegantly turned-out Tiara and Schnee. For one strange evening, the reluctant hero plays along with all the pomp and endless praise. He gamely escorts both ladies in, playing the gallant hero for one awkward evening. Beneath the celebration, Schnee has been carrying something she needs to finally say. Beneath the toasts and the cheering, an old, unspoken tension finally comes to a head. Rion teases him about all his admirers, and Shin can only laugh it off. Away from the crowd, Schnee draws Shin aside for the talk she's been waiting to have. The setting sun paints the balcony gold as Schnee quietly gathers the courage to speak. The years of loyal, patient waiting have brought her to this single fragile moment. Out on a quiet balcony at sunset, she finally admits why she hid the players and the PKs. She's carried this heavy secret and this fear side by side across the entire journey. She feared the knowledge would turn him back into the cold, distant Shin of the death game. She confesses she was even a little glad the girl he loved was gone, hoping to take her place. It's the most honest she's ever let herself be about everything she feels for him. Shin gently stops her guilt, promising there'll be no more secrets between them ever again. He listens gently, refusing to let her drown in guilt over trying so hard to protect him. Then, asked outright, he quietly admits his feelings for Marino still haven't changed at all. Even knowing he means to leave someday, her feelings for him refuse to fade. Schnee accepts it with grace, vowing she won't give up, that her love for him is completely real. Her love is real and freely given, asking for nothing and expecting nothing in return. There are player killers to fear and lost friends who might yet be alive, and a road still ahead. The season closes with the long road stretching on, their strange found family walking it together. And so Shin travels on, still seeking home, as the reunited group sets out for the next town.